All right, we're live.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Leticia Remauro, and I'm here with my partner, George Passariello. We are the Bond Agency, and you are in the segment called Ask the Expert. We air every Monday and Friday at 2 p.m. I'm sorry that we're a little late today. Our guest, Mario Gallucci, will join us. He's having some internet problems, and I don't know if that is happening throughout a certain system because I see that and he might be coming in now. But at any rate, Mario Gallucci, let me just tell you a little bit about Mario because you're not going to want to miss this show. I assure you it's going to be more than me and George. But Mario Gallucci is a renowned criminal attorney on Staten Island. He was named top 100 national trial lawyers in the United States. He is also a television personality. He's appeared as a guest legal expert on networks such as Fox and MSNBC, and he was on the Body Snatchers of New York. And he was also the star of his own, and it was really, really popular, and that's where he made his bones. It was a television show called Partners in Crime, and it aired on the USA networks. So just because with his bio that I just read, and that's only a small part of it, that's why we wanted Mario on the show, and we wanted to discuss today the small business owners across the country who want to go back to work. And one of them, the Dallas hairdresser, Shelley Luther, actually opened her shop. And she opened her shop because she learned that her hairdressers were cutting hair in people's homes, and she was concerned that they were taking risks and exposing themselves and their clients to COVID. And so she decided to open her shop against the stay-at-home order, and she was ultimately arrested. The judge in the case told her that if she didn't apologize to him, he was going to throw her in jail. And she saw no reason that she should be apologizing to him. So he threw her in jail. Mario will talk about exactly why it was, but I believe it was contempt of court. And it wasn't until, there he is. And it wasn't until the lieutenant governor and the attorney general actually told the court to let her go, that she was released. And actually the executive order now wound up changing to say that if you broke it, you weren't going to get jailed. So ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Mario Gallucci. Hi, Mario.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hey, Mario.
The internet in the house made a good finding of let's turn off right now.
Well, that was fantastic. Look, Murphy's Law, right? I mean, it's a new world, and where we've seen everything happen through technology, all kinds of great glitches, and some that are even humorous. So I just told everybody about your fame and the fact that we all love you here on Staten Island.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Mario, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Fill us in. I mean, I talked about that you were named one of the top 100 national trial lawyers, and that you were on Body Snatchers, and that you were on Partners in Crime. Tell us how a criminal attorney turns into a television celebrity.
Well, it was an accidental ride, actually. I had a number of my cases had gotten onto like Law and Order and Dateline, and one of the producers of the show really enjoyed working with me. She said that they worked with criminal defense attorneys throughout the country, but I was the only guy that was really down to earth and normal. So she said one day, "Can I shoot you?" And I go, "Wow, what do you mean?" And she's like, "Shoot you, wake up in the morning in your house, and then go to bed with you and just shoot you the whole day." So she did that, and she made what they call a sizzle reel, which they then brought to different networks, And the first network that wanted it was True TV. And then they couldn't find sponsors for it. True TV, if you remember, was the old Court TV.
Yeah.
So that would have been the perfect fit. Then out of nowhere, USA Network was doing unscripted reality, but they wanted it to be not a train wreck, and they bought the show, and then the rest was history. You know, they shot a season of it. They actually shot 2 seasons of it. So maybe during this pandemic we'll get to see season number 2. You never know.
Excellent.
Right.
Excellent. Well, we know you for being a very smart and brilliant criminal attorney here on Staten Island. And we know you for having a great big heart as well. And you approach, criminal law in a way that I haven't seen anybody approach it. And I'm always surprised at how upbeat you are. You know, you're tough when you have to be tough, but you're always smiling. And I know that your job isn't easy because some of the people that you have to represent are in trouble for really difficult things, and you represent them really well. And so it's no surprise to us that you are named one of the 100 top trial lawyers in the nation.
Appreciate that.
So let's talk about Shelley Luther. All right. So we have a hairdresser. She needs to feed her kids. She hears or learns that the hairdressers that work for her are cutting hair in people's homes. She says, I don't want them putting themselves in danger. I'd prefer to have my shop open where I can provide gloves and masks. And she tries to adhere to all the CDC precautions. And she gets arrested. And I mean, isn't it interesting in America where immigrants come from around the world and have since were established. They come because they want to live the American dream. They want to open their own business. They want to succeed. In America, we are now jailing people for opening a business. So tell us about, the reason you came on the show was we were discussing the case on Facebook, and you made some great points. Give the audience some of your thoughts about, where things went right, where things went wrong, with the judge. Tell us your perspective.
I mean, the judge was not upset that she had broken the stay-at-home order. The judge was upset that he broke his order. So, every state has proposed their own way of handling this pandemic. And generally, it would be unconstitutional for a state to put down these requirements that every state is doing on their own, except when there's an emergency situation, which we're obviously in. So in Texas, in Dallas, where my son Andrew lives, by the way, they had their lockdown order or their stay-at-home orders, which included these hairdressers, and as we have in New York and New Jersey. So at one point, she decided that other people were making money, and why shouldn't she start making money too? And Shelley decided to open up her salon, at which she was arrested under the stay-at-home order, brought before a court. And initially, the issue was not that she had opened, but the judge told her that she had to do 2 things. The first thing she had to do was close, and the second thing she had to do was apologize to everybody, which is not unusual. I mean, judges, different judges do different things, and when we get to the Michael Flynn case, we'll talk about Judge Gleason. But in that case, she didn't want to apologize. She felt like she had nothing to apologize for. So she violated the judge's order, not the stay-at-home order. She violated the judge's order, and she was found guilty of contempt of court, and he sentenced her, I believe, to 7 days in jail. Then the governor, changed the law. Who was the judge? Moy, I think, was the judge.
Yeah. Yeah.
who by the way is a Democrat, and the governor of Texas is a Republican.
Right.
So, and then it was the Republican governor that said, you know what, this is going too far. I'm now going to remove the jail component of this and just make it a fine once he saw that this woman was actually incarcerated.
And if anybody's watching us from Texas, Judge Moy is up for re-election in November. So just remember that. But let me ask you now. So the judge said you're going to jail for 7 days, but correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't the Dallas police adopt a policy or protocol during COVID that if it was a nonviolent crime, and that if it was, or that if you stole less than $750, that you weren't going to jail? Weren't they letting people out of jail at the time that they put her in jail? So I know the answer is yes, but I guess what I'm asking you is, how can you have a double standard like that? I mean, really, are judges that powerful that they could do anything they want?
Well, judges are not that powerful that they can do whatever they want. Unfortunately, this judge chose to make an example here. And the same thing is going on in New York right now, where they're letting out a great population of prisoners because of either the COVID or the new bail laws or what have you. But those people that are violating social distancing, say, for example, are getting arrested. And then the mayor, de Blasio, is putting the police in a bad situation where he's like telling them, you know what, you got to enforce these laws. So they go out and they enforce them, and then they get criticized. The police that protect us every day are now getting criticized for enforcing the laws that the mayor put into effect. The mayor that's letting everybody out of jail. So it's really a crazy chaos going on, not only in Texas, forget Texas. I mean, look at what's going on just in New York City alone with this pandemic and the way that de Blasio is handling.
Well, and there's, we have a situation now. I think that de Blasio must be in his glory, because we have a situation in New York that's going on now where law-abiding citizens are locked in their homes and they're allowed to go out and take a walk at a park, but that we have police officers, and God bless our men and women in blue. I just adore them. And so there's nothing against them, but he's got police officers stationed on the roads, in the parks, ready to tell people, move it along, move it along, move it along. Similar to what you would see in prison, right? You could walk around the yard, whatever. You got this much time, and then you're out. But at the same time, they've let out, before even COVID, they let out tons of people in jail with bail reform. But now, because of COVID, they decided to empty out our prisons. And so we have convicted criminals running in the street, and we have law-abiding citizens locked in their home. And I don't know about you, but I'm a little skeptical. I don't know that a convicted criminal who's been behind bars and who, committed a crime is really going to be concerned about social distancing. I wouldn't trust them as much as I would probably trust the decisions made by law-abiding citizens. But this is de Blasio's New York, right? He's in control. He can say who makes money, who doesn't make money. And so this is what we have here. So speaking of that, I think that some of the people that are online with us today might be attending the rally that is being held tomorrow at 12 noon. I don't know if you knew about it, Mario, but last week, Steve Margarella, actually it's the top of the week, it was Monday, Steve Margarella from Margarella Asphalt and Paving was our guest, and he organized a rally and he announced it on Monday. So tomorrow, 12 o'clock, we will be, I say we because I joined him because I'm that passionate about it. We'll be gathering at the Showplace Bowling Alley parking lot. We're actually going to be on the old DMV side of Victory and the West Shore Expressway. And right now we have hundreds of cars that we know of. And, we think that parking lot's going to be full. So we're we're going to pass out your card, and
Oh,
you know
thank
I'm
you.
going to call you because if I get arrested,
I'm there for anybody that gets arrested during that rally is free to call me.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's at the Gallucci law firm, ladies and gentlemen. He's in the book. He's on the internet. You know, or you could just ask anybody. Do you know Mario Gallucci? They'll give you his number. But we have a problem here in New York. You know, Assemblywoman Nicole Maliotakis wrote a story today. It appeared in the Empire Report. It was an op-ed about the fact that we have essential services that the governor decided who was essential and who wasn't essential. And so if you have a plumbing issue and your house is flooding, you can call a plumber and they can work for that. But they can't come and install your toilet in your house when you put on an extension, right? You can have your landscaper mow your lawn. But if you were in the process of building a new house, you can't have the garden installed. You can't pave your driveway, but we can do road paving, okay, if you have a contract.
Right.
You can't do any home improvement on a house, but yet if you are building affordable housing, 100 stories, 20 stories, you can do that. So tell me something. You know, this governor is saying who can work and who can't. When these men and women go back to work and they're going to go back to work, and we know they have to go back to work. If they get in trouble, I mean, do you know what are they really facing? Is it just the fines? I mean, you know, in this kind of climate, is it the book going to get thrown at them?
No, in New York, it's just a fine, and you won't get a criminal record as a result of it. Unlike Shelley Luther, I mean, that was a fine until she committed the criminal contempt. So say you go before one of the judges on Staten Island for a social distancing violation, and they tell you, okay, you got to do, a day of community service. And then you don't do that day of community service. Then the judge has a power to penalize you for violating their order, not the order of the social distancing. So, and the way Cuomo is handling it, if I can jump in here, I mean,
please.
If you look at the governor of Florida, I think his name is DeSantis, and the governor of New York, Florida, number one, has a more diverse citizenship than New York does. Florida has more elderly people than New York does. Florida has a larger population than New York does. Florida took a proactive approach in March. DeSantis at that point said he didn't close anything down. What he said is we have to take care of the populations that are most at risk. So what he did was he told senior citizens, you guys, you need to stay put. You need to stay where you are. He made sure that the senior housing, the communities they lived in, got tested. He made sure that the masks went to the senior population. He made sure that that population was taken care of. Not one time did you hear him say, I don't have enough masks. He went out and got them. Not one time did you say, I need more money. He didn't need. By the way, there's no income tax in Florida either. And it's 8% here in New York. So instead of going and saying, all right, we're all shut down, and let me blame the federal government for all of the issues that we're going through right now, he took a proactive approach and said, how can I best help the people in Florida? And that's what he did. He shut down very, very little of Florida, and it's completely reopened, and there's no surge. There's no surge. So instead of flattening the curve, he decided to beat the curve, and he did. He beat it.
And our governor, I think his plan was to rely on this federal aid. It was part of his plan. It's clear to me the governor and the mayor both are hedging that bet because they misspent every penny we've given them. They wasted it, to me, like a kid in an arcade. And now we're seeing the ramifications of it.
Well, George, if you look at it, Mayor de Blasio ran the greatest city in the world into the ground. I mean, let's just use Thrive.
Quick.
Yeah.
$1 billion given to his wife, who I don't know the woman personally, but he gave her $1 billion to run Thrive. Now, they did nothing from what I see. There's nothing. There's $1 billion missing. So let's take that $1 billion. If we would have invested in the future of a pandemic, which everybody said was going to happen, then maybe we would have had the masks, the ventilators, the equipment necessary to get through this. I mean, just stroll through New York during the de Blasio years, and you will see more homeless than back in the Abe Beam days. I mean, this is what you're seeing.
That's
so
true.
the man is fiscally irresponsible. I don't know how he is as a person. He may be the nicest guy around, but he's fiscally irresponsible. One. Two, he's taking human lives and politicizing that. So instead of saying, wow, I have this huge problem here in New York, how am I going to resolve this? He chooses instead to get on the news every day and say, it's Trump's fault. Trump is killing people, blah, 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 blah. And I got to be honest with you, the people I know who live in New York are not happy with that response. Whether you like Trump or you don't like Trump, you should be helping the people that are there without blame. And he's not doing it, nor is Cuomo. But, Cuomo never worked a day in his life. He was an ADA for 7 weeks. He was his father's campaign manager. God bless his father, by the way. His father was a great man. I don't know what happened to his children. But I mean, Cuomo never worked a day in his life.
Mario, that's the problem with most of the elected officials, though, now, right? Take a look at who we have in Congress. Take a look at who we have in our state. I'm not going to speak about other states because I don't know. Take a look at who we have in our city. Not one of them have created jobs. Not one of them understand that, what it's like to risk your life savings, right? You're a business owner, Mario.
Yep.
People don't understand that doctors and lawyers are small business owners. There are people that depend on them. They're not just individuals. They're business owners. They have to answer the phone. So not one of them ever created a job. They didn't risk their life savings to provide a service. And now, what I love about this is that they're telling us to stay home and, we're in this together, but they're collecting their paychecks.
Absolutely.
Every single week, the money goes into their account. Oh, by the way, which we paid for, right? Our tax dollars. So I have a challenge here. If everybody wants to talk about how everybody needs to stay home, then I want them to be in the same. If we're in this together, then the elected officials should all vow to stop taking a paycheck until they get this resolved.
It's a lack of consistency. That's what it is across the board. No consistent messaging has come out in any case, and I think that just highlights it. So I'm with you.
I mean, this is the whole thing is that, Shelley Luther gets arrested and goes to jail, yes, for contempt, but she would have had a fine otherwise. How many other New York business owners are getting fines? I only know that people have been harassed, but I do know that the de Blasio has said over and over again, we're not going to accept it. We're going to start coming down on you. We're getting tough. He's acting as if we're robbing banks. But meanwhile, the bank robbers, what did we have on Staten Island? 20-something, and as soon as the bail reform started, the bank robbers, in the door, out the door, in the door, out the door, and de Blasio is the first one to say, let them go because it's disparate.
Well, one guy was arrested. One guy was arrested 4 times.
Yeah,
I let go. 4 times.
I want to move on to Michael Flynn because I know that that's important. But before I do, I just want to ask you. I want to ask you, Mario. You just said one guy was arrested 4 times. Do you have any other examples about what bail reform has done to Staten Island we were the safest borough in the city? What has bail reform done to counties across New York State?
Well, we're still a safe borough. I mean, out of the 5, we're still probably the safest. But you take, for example, I represented a young woman on a shoplifting case. She got arrested for shoplifting, and under normal circumstances, even before bail reform, you would get what's called a desk appearance ticket for small offenses. So this young woman went to the mall. She shoplifted. She got a DAT. She came to court. They were offered her a program, shoplifters program. So within 3 days of that, she got arrested again for shoplifting. This time they brought her into court because she had already gotten a DAT. She was already out on a shoplifting case. And under bail reform, there was no bail for that crime of shoplifting. So after court, the next day, she was arrested again for shoplifting. A total of 5 times she was arrested for shoplifting. And this has nothing to do with the district attorney's office. They're following the law, or the judges. I mean, they're following what the law is. So, that's a perfect example. The bank robber who robs a bank 4 times, the guy that's in Brooklyn commits a crime, then goes to Queens and commits a crime, and then comes to Staten Island, commits a crime, and he gets out on every one of them. Although they just did change the laws. They added more crimes, and they gave the judges a little more discretion in putting bail on people, which is all. The part you're missing though is that he basically put out of business a whole entire insurance industry.
That's right.
All right. I mean, I'm bail bondsmen. I mean, people think whatever they think of bail bondsmen, but bail bondsmen do a good job for the community. I mean, they vet, number one, they vet the person that they're giving the money to. 2, it's an insurance policy. You don't return, you got an issue. So he basically put out of business the whole. Now they're coming back slowly as a result of some of the changes they made.
Yeah, but now who's at risk now, right? The police are now at risk because now they're the ones that have to go do it.
I tell you, I'm a former prosecutor. So, I was in the DA's office here in Richmond County from 1990 to 1996. I have a wonderful relationship with, I think, most of the detectives I work with. And the reason why is because I treat them with respect. And I don't know how anybody would want to work in law enforcement under the de Blasio administration. It is pointless. I mean, from day one, he's had it in for law enforcement.
Yes,
and it's just a scary, scary situation that he has created. These men and women go out every day. How about the woman that says the public health, I forget her name, who said,
yeah, I can't pronounce her name. Ox or something.
Here are the police that you are telling go out and enforce these stay-at-home orders and social distancing, and then the woman who has to give you the mask says, no, too bad. I don't give a rat's ass about you. I tell you what, if I didn't use a signal, went 1 mile over the speed limit, she's done. Done.
Yeah. Well, and to George's point, I mean, for people that don't know it, when you got a bail bond or you got bonded out, if you didn't return to court, that bondsman or woman would now be on the hook. They'd lose the money, right? So,
yes.
So they were responsible for going to find you, for getting you back, find out where you are, to get you to go return back to court. So now it's up to the police to do that. It's up to the police to go out there. So and we didn't increase our budget for policing. So that meant that we added another layer to the police in New Jersey, in some counties in New Jersey. That action caused them to go bankrupt, bust their budget when they, for the police. The second thing that Mario and I talked about this a little before he came on, I came from a family where we had a drug addicted family member, and I was a child, and addiction is just a horrible thing, horrible for anybody that, doesn't understand it. It is no fault of that person's. You never know if you have an addictive personality or gene. You can do it whatever the drug is, do it once, and then you're compelled to do it again and again. So we did have an addicted family member, and I was a child, and he held a knife to my throat more than one time, and to get money from my grandparents for drugs. And when he got arrested, we didn't bail him out. The family didn't bail him out because being in jail was the only way he could detox. Being in jail ensured that he would detox. And by the way, people, you can't bail yourself out of jail. somebody has to post the bond for you. So usually it's a friend or a family member. If somebody is sitting in jail because they can't post a bond, in my opinion, one of two things, right? In New York City, they ROR'd you if it was your first offense and it wasn't really, really bad. If it was a bad offense and it was your first offense, most judges would give a reasonable bail. But if the bail started to get set so high that your family couldn't afford to bail you out, it was mostly because you were a recidivist and you kept coming back over and over again, and the judge was able to set the bail higher. Now, well, I know the laws have changed, but under the first bail reform, the judge's discretion was totally eradicated.
Discretion. Judge had no discretion.
There was none.
None.
There was none.
See, Jersey, Leticia, Jersey had bail reform a number of years ago, and they addressed all these issues. And it works. It works in Jersey. And all New York had to do was follow the same thing. They gave the judges discretion. You were able, as a defense attorney, to have a hearing. It's called a custody hearing. And you go there and you could put witnesses on, they could put witnesses on, whatever, to determine whether, you got to remember, bail is not punishment.
Right.
Bail is to make sure you come back to court.
Right.
People think, oh, they're not getting bail, they're not getting punished. No. Bail is only for you to come back to court. Jersey gives the judges discretion. New York now gives the judges, after the reform, they just repealed some of it, gives the judges more discretion, which seems to be working.
Is it enough, you think? Enough discretion now, currently?
Is it enough? I did a bail hearing on Monday on a gun case, and the judge listened. It was almost back to the old days. They found a gun in a trunk. Two of the people had no prior records, but one of them actually owned and was operating the motor vehicle they found the gun in. So the judge set a reasonable bail. The other person was a passenger who was on probation. So the judge set the appropriate bail. And then there was a third individual who was in the back seat who had no prior record whatsoever. And how would they know that there was a gun in the trunk of a car that they didn't own? And that person was released on their own recognizance. So yeah, the judge, and it's a Staten Island judge who did a great job, but they're given some discretion to make those decisions.
And I think that what you said about the Jersey, we were working with the Bail Bondsmen's Association when the Jersey first adopted it, and we knew the early Jersey wasn't perfect, but when we heard it was coming to New York, we presumed, right? New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, they'd look at the model. They did it a year before us. You got a model that is now working, and why don't we copy it? But our legislature, unfortunately, they're so out of touch, and it goes back again to what kind of job did they do before they actually got elected? And, so they put us all through that craziness where Staten Island, who had no bank robberies, all of a sudden has, 14 in the first 2 weeks. And, do they have it right now? I don't know. But thankfully, I will applaud Cuomo for this. He had said in the beginning, he thought it was too lax, right? He didn't like the first bail reform package, but, it was overwhelmingly supported. And when we had to make the changes, he made them swiftly. So I'm going to, applaud him for that. But at any rate, so let's get back to, while I have you, I have 1,000 questions. I have so many things I want to ask you because I want to pick your brain. I'm sorry, George.
Can I bring Paul's question up on the screen?
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. George is going to talk about these questions.
The governor's abuse. How far can he go? And I'm asking this to the group. I don't know if any of us are qualified to answer it, but he keeps extending these emergency powers. When does that expire? Because we can be locked down for years if this keeps up this way. So I like the way Paul phrased it. Are they telling us the truth? There's an abuse of power here somewhere. I didn't want to let this question go without addressing it. I thought it was great.
Oh, okay.
So, there was a case, I believe it was like in 1905 when there was a pandemic, that says that the right of an individual with respect to liberty and freedom is always paramount to anything else, unless there's a greater danger to society. Then the government could propose, as they're doing right now, reasonable regulations for safety. So the issue is going to become whether or not, now that we're seeing different numbers, we're seeing other states and other countries come out of this with better results. The question is going to be, when does somebody say, you know what, the pause, as he calls it, is now become unreasonable for the safety of individuals. He just extended us, I think, today till what, June 13th or something?
June 13th.
June 13th. So at this point, like, courts are closed. I mean, you talk about, I have no income. I'm not complaining. I'm like everybody else. Courts are closed in 2 states. The Office of Court Administration is doing their best with these virtual appearances. And my hat's off to the clerks and the court officers and the judges. I mean, everybody's working around the clock. It really is. It's working as best it possibly could. But there's going to be a point where that word reasonable is going to be an issue. And I think we're getting pretty damn close to that being an issue.
Who says it's over? Like, is that, Leticia, that's probably a question you can answer in the legislature. Who gets to say? They took away the legislature's power a little bit. Who says that's too far?
Well, George, I'd like to say that, that the governor is going to be reasonable and he's going to say it's over. But I think truly the answer to your question is the people are going to say it's over. The people of New York are going to say enough, especially as we talked about just a few minutes ago, as our elected officials are drawing down their regular salary very happily, as they are destroying the economy further than New York's economy already was. Mario, you talked a little bit about DeSantis and Florida, and I had the opportunity to speak to the lieutenant governor of Florida way back earlier last year, before this even began. And because of Cuomo and de Blasio's, coupling, she told me that they had more New Yorkers emigrating to Florida than ever before. And the average age of the people moving to Florida was 32. Not 65, not 70, 32. They were setting up businesses. And the government there was doing everything that they could to help them get off the ground with their businesses. So, the people are going to finally say, this doesn't make any sense. You've created a New York where you're penalizing those who create jobs, and you are making us criminals for pursuing the American dream. We pay taxes. We can't pay taxes if we don't employ people. If people are unemployed, they can't pay taxes. So they're setting up a New York to fail further than it already was failing, because people were leaving in droves. And through it all, I mean, 2 things I want to point out to people: that they're still collecting property taxes, right? They're putting liens on properties, commercial and private, if you have not paid your property tax, or your quarterly property taxes. And they are still giving tickets, red light tickets, speeding, the electronic camera tickets.
Tickets. Which, by the way, Staten Island has more cameras than any other borough.
Yes, it does. And
you know why?
We have more cars.
Because we pay.
That's right.
Right, because we have the money and we voted Republican.
Yep. And we pay, and we have more cars. So while there is no school in session, those cameras are still on, still generating tickets. So you tell me how this governor and mayor has said, you know what? This is going to work really well for the future of New York. All of the ideas, all of the plans that we have put forward, this is going to work really well for the future of New York. When he decided to extend that stay at home today to June 13th, that to me was the worst decision possible, because it doesn't make sense, right? I could go to Target, because Target and Walmart, well, not in New York, you're not allowed to go to Walmart in New York, but I could go to Target to buy food and clothing, but I can't go to TJ Maxx. because
There's no
it's just close.
consistency. Nothing's consistent. That's my point. Yep, it's crazy.
And that's what the rally tomorrow is about. You know, it's about small business owners, you know, taking back New York. So George, to answer your question, I think it's going to be the people that say enough, and they're going to force the governor and the mayor to open up.
I'm just worried about the cause and effect of all this. You know, obviously since the Trump election, we've drawn a Mason-Dixon line in the sand somehow in this country, and there are going to be a segment of people that are going to call us murderers and crazies and insane, and the numbers simply don't support that. The death rate doesn't support that. I can't wrap my brain around what it's going to do to us as a people, like the mayor telling us to rat out our neighbors.
Yeah.
We are in an interesting time now where there's a purposeful division, and I'm really concerned about it. So I'm just going to put out to everybody to just remember everybody's opinion counts. Do not, let's not draw this line in the sand and beat each other up.
Well, look, we put and the worst part is that Facebook is in collusion with the socialist kind of movement, because yesterday we put up the poster that for the rally. We made an event page or two days ago, and a woman got on and said that we were putting people's lives in jeopardy, even though everybody's going to be in their car, just as anywhere else. Your family in your car, and that's how you're going to, that's how you're going to protest, if you will. This woman complained to Facebook, and Facebook took it down. So, and we're seeing that all over the place, right? All of a sudden, they're starting to monitor us. It's really a Big Brother situation. So,
how much money does Facebook get? How much money does Facebook make, and how much money does he have? It's unbelievable. He is the guy that made the money from a free market system, developed an app, stole an app. I'm sorry, from his roommate, and then made billions of dollars living in a lofty mansion. He's not worried about the coronavirus. All right. And he's the one that's dictating what you can and cannot see on Facebook.
It's amazing. And if you think about it too, we see these celebrities on television, right? And they are saying, we're in this together. We're in this together, right? That's the new hashtag.
Come on. Go ahead.
Well, we're in this together. Ask the immigrant Mexican who is working for a contractor off the books, who now cannot get unemployment, who now cannot get anything, right? They have to stand in line for food stamps and welfare if they can get it from a city that is now in a deficit. I mean, he just said, the mayor, I'm going to lay off firefighters, teachers, and cops if I don't get money from the feds. So who is feeding him and his family? He worked every day off the books. Not only him. I mean, if that's not a tragic story there, how about the small business owner, the contractor, right, who may have not been paying himself on the books and may not have been paying these guys off the books, or she, and all of a sudden now he or she can't get the PPP, they can't get unemployment, they can't get anything. Who's feeding them right now? Because we all know, Mario, I'm sure your business is good and you have great business sense, but we all have a limit of reserves that we could use for our businesses. So, absolutely. I want to comment. Carmelo Di Bartolo asked a question early on when I was introducing you, and I said that you were going to talk about getting America back to work. And he wanted to know if you have a degree in public health policy or epidemiology, or for that matter, science. And
not talking about science today.
So, here's the thing. When we talk about getting America back to work, I hear people say, I'm going to listen to the experts. But the science and the physiology of the disease is not the only thing. That is not the only problem we have. This is not for just the medical profession. This is for the economic experts. This is for the psychology experts. This is about education for our kids. This is about health and wellness of your brain and your just good feeling. This is about social experts. For those that say, until it's eradicated, until the scientists, until the doctors say it's safe to do so, everybody should stay inside. I want to just suggest this: wear a mask. Don't wear a mask. Hydrochloroquine Hydrochloroquine's no good.
No concern.
Social de Blasio. It's safe. Everybody could go and enjoy Chinese. Go downtown to China. Don't not go out. Right? Nancy Pelosi. Right now, everybody stay in. The problem here, and I don't blame anybody. Believe it or not, I don't blame Cuomo. I don't blame de Blasio. I don't blame the president. The problem here is we're dealing with an unknown enemy. It's an unknown quantity. So the people asked for government to react, and the government reacted in the best way that it could. But now that we see that other countries did it differently than we did, and they're having better outcomes.
I'm sorry.
In other states.
In other states, right? We have now 2 weeks worth of data from other states that have opened up. 43 states have opened up, right? What I don't understand is that Cuomo had Javits and he had the hospital ship, right?
Comfort, USS Navy ship Comfort, yeah.
So why wouldn't you open up and be prepared for that spike with those hospital beds here? Wouldn't that have been a better plan? Let's open while I have the backup instead of waiting till they sending them away. And then we're going to now wait because, one county had a blip or this one had a blip. Now I feel like it's politics. It went from.
Well, that's exactly the issue, Leticia. I mean, there's a difference. There's a balance you have to do here. Look, there's conservatives, there's liberals, there's ducks. I mean, everybody's different, and that's what makes this country great. And we all have our point of view, and that's fantastic. But when does it become political? When does the safety of your state become no longer safety, but politics? And that is a dangerous, dangerous, dangerous line to cross. Yeah. So when you hear a guy like de Blasio every day starting a press conference with Donald Trump is horrible, Donald Trump is killing New Yorkers, Donald Trump told us to go ourselves. That's the issue here. He's not working for the guy ran for president. He's lucky he could be a dog catcher after he's mayor. I mean, this guy is totally ruining the city of New York, and every day comes on and blames the federal government for his ineffectiveness.
Yeah, his waste.
Basically, he destroyed a city, and he thinks that it's Trump's fault, and he should come and bail them out.
Yeah.
Do you ever think you'd find the day where you were like, oh, I wish Dinkins was back?
But we've come to that. I mean, we really have. Well, we could go on with this forever, but I want to get to the Flynn case because this is interesting to those of us watching. So all of a sudden the government says we don't have a case and we're going to drop it, and now the judge is asking for third parties to come in to give him a reason to have a trial. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to let you tee it up, and I'm going to let you talk all about it, Mario. I'm going to let you freeform on this one because this is your bailiwick.
So the case against Michael Flynn was made. Any investigation starts out with a plan. You don't say, I'm going to investigate Joe Smith without knowing what you want to investigate him for. So initially they had this whole Russia thing going on, which they found was nothing, by the way. And they wanted to get Michael Flynn. So they set up a plan, and they brought him in and they questioned him. And this is legal. There's nothing illegal about doing this. They brought him in to set him up to either give them information or to catch him in a lie, because it is a law. It is a crime to lie to a federal law enforcement person. That's why, by the way, I tell everybody, if you are ever questioned by law enforcement, you say, I want a lawyer, because anything you say to them is a problem. So we go into it with that. Now you couple that with the fact that law enforcement is allowed by law to lie. They're allowed to lie to you. So I'll give you an example. You have a murder case. They're interrogating somebody they believe is the murderer. They could come into the room and they could say, we just found your DNA on a knife in a room where it happened. And none of that could be true. And you admit to the crime. It doesn't matter. That's legal. So what happened here are a number of things. They targeted Michael Flynn because they were going to use him politically to take down Trump because they were unhappy with an election. So the question is, who targeted him?
Yeah.
Who's the person that said, let's target Michael Flynn because we're unhappy about an election? Has to be somebody in the Obama administration, right? So that's problem number one, when you have a sitting president turn around and say, let's target this person because this is the way we're going to get the incoming president out of office. So somewhere along the line, they decide now that they're going to dismiss the charges. So they go in front of a federal judge. Federal judge basically says to everybody, you know what? I'm not going to make this decision. I'm not going to be the guy that's going to be on the front page of every paper agreeing with the Department of Justice and dismissing this case. Let me bring in Judge Gleason. Now, Judge Gleason, I've appeared in front. Judge Gleason is, every time I've been in front of him, he's a fair jurist. I mean, he was the guy, when he was a prosecutor, prosecuted Gotti. And as a judge, he did a lot for criminals. He was for, in New York, it's called relief from civil disabilities. It allows a criminal who's gotten on with their life to not have the problem of a criminal conviction stop them from getting a job. He's the one that created that federally. So he goes both ways, which is great. But week before this whole issue comes up, he's the guy that writes the op-ed piece in the Washington Post saying this is all BS. Okay, that's his opinion, and that's fine. If that's his opinion, I have no problem with that. But how dare you now kick the ball to the side, this federal judge kicks the ball to the side and chooses this particular judge who he knows is against this to say, all right, he could be fair. He can't be fair.
Is that usual? I mean, judges writing op-eds about politics? I mean,
yeah, he's retired.
I know a lot of judges.
He's retired. You get judges that write books. Judge Joe Goldberg wrote a book about the whole system a couple of years ago after he retired. Judge Rienzi still writes his narcotics trial manual. You get judges that will write op-ed pieces. That I don't have a problem with him writing op-ed piece. I don't have a problem with his opinion. I mean, that's his opinion. But
Yeah.
the issue here is the fact that they choose this judge to be the one that's going to make the decision in a case where he's already said what his position is.
Yeah. So now what? I mean, so what? And did I see something? I don't know if you read this because it came out fairly recently, earlier today, that Michael Flynn's attorneys that he let go want to get in on. They want on the third party. Did you hear that?
I didn't hear that. Would they want to write a friend of the court brief also?
I guess so. Yeah. I guess that was what they're looking.
You know
for.
what's very troubling here too is when you're being prosecuted, there's a point where the government has to turn over every piece of paper that was generated as a result of the investigation for your attorney to use during the trial of you, so it's fair. So where was all this paperwork when Flynn went to trial, showing that he was set up, showing that they made even though it's legal, I use it all the time. I do a cross-examination of a cop when they use an abandonment sample. When you're being interrogated and they give you a cup of coffee or a cigarette, they're not being nice. They're using that to get your DNA. All right. And it's allowed. I'm not saying that's illegal. Every cop does it. It's allowed. But you don't think I'm going to use that when I'm in front of a jury and say you did that on purpose? You weren't giving him a cup of coffee. You were trying to get his DNA surreptitiously. I mean, his lawyers never had the chance to do any of that because they never turned over any of that paperwork.
Well, how did they even know who he was? They had to unmask his identity to find out that all this happened. How did they get through that part of the process? And it was a lot of people, if I'm understanding it right. It was, I don't want to name all names. You probably know better than me. But they unmasked somebody, a U.S. citizen. They unmasked to everybody when he was supposed to be protected. So I don't know if you can comment on that.
I mean, that's generally never done. I mean, this whole thing is extraordinary and unusual. this whole Michael Flynn thing is I've never seen it in my lifetime. I've never seen it as a prosecutor. I've never seen it as a defense attorney. I know Judge Gleason. I mean, it's sad.
The setup, that they knew that
it is a setup
that way. They were letting them go. The case was over, and then they refired it again.
So my opinion is that I don't know that this hasn't happened over and over and over again. In my opinion, honestly, I wonder if we still need the FBI. I wonder because, from its founder, right, we have had corruption issues, if you will, or calls of corruption issues. And one after another, they've had problems in the FBI. And their job is basically to go after Americans. I mean, that's what the FBI does. So one of the thoughts that I have is when you start an agency that has been founded in corruption, the mentality is that what they're doing is not corrupt. That's what they've been doing for years and years and years. And so sometimes you got to scrap it and say, this is not great. Right? That's number one. Number two is, the president today wanted, to talk about, wanted President Obama to be called to testify at the hearings that the Senate was doing. And, my thought process of that was, if you set that precedent, to have a former president sitting and testifying in front of a hearing, Donald Trump, when he's out of office, will never, ever leave Washington because they will have him testifying on everything. If anything that he has done up until now and what they have done is going to be a predictor for that. So, but talk about that. I mean, Mario, what do you think is in his mind that he wants to have Obama testify?
Well, I think the obvious reason is who orchestrated the investigation to begin with. I mean, the minute he was elected, there was an issue because the outcome wasn't what they wanted the outcome to be. So now they had to do whatever possible to get him out of office. And that's when they orchestrated this whole Russian probe. And who was in charge of doing that? That's why he'll never, by the way, I don't think in your lifetime you will ever see President Obama testify at any hearing. It never testify. What I think will happen is people will see for the first time how a conspiracy works, how they tried to set up the incoming president of the United States. Before he even took office, they were trying to do this. So it's a scary scenario. Whether you're liberal or conservative, it's something that we cannot tolerate. It's a slippery slope once we start doing these types of investigations in order to propose our own agendas. It becomes. I mean, did Obama use the FBI as his own police department? Is that what happened? I mean, that's not what it's supposed to be.
No. It sets a precedent that I think, even for my liberal friends, and I'm kind of a centrist. I'm not hard right like most people think. But my liberal friends out there, they need to know that if Biden wins this election, I promise you he will be up for impeachment because of the precedent that was set with Trump. You don't need to be a rocket scientist, and we don't need to be divisional with each other. You set a precedent, now you're going to have to live with it. It's going to come back. We're going to see a lot more impeachments, in my opinion, unless
Look at Me Too. Look at the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
It doesn't apply to them.
Right.
It doesn't.
Sexual assault. I mean, true or not, we all know when you're famous, people come down on you. But consistency. They should have treated them the same way.
Look, as a criminal defense attorney, I'm all for, not guilty. You're not guilty until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But they did the inquiries into all these Me Too people, and some got convicted, some didn't get convicted. But when it comes to Biden, we're not even doing the inquiry. There's no inquiry. It's just unbelievable how is a double standard.
And the media, don't even get me started. The media ignoring this is clear to me.
Well, the media is all liberal. I mean, there's very few central places you could go in the media and hear the argument on both sides. I mean, you have to go and look for the arguments on both sides.
I actually laugh when Mary, do you have time? I know that we
Yeah,
said
go ahead.
we
It's
have
a pandemic, Leticia. Where am I going?
the audience is getting in here. Viewers are growing, and so George said that anyway. That the thing is that we have now media apologizing for misrepresenting stories, not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times. It is becoming, just normal for them to go, oh, I got the story wrong. I got the story wrong. And, and listen, this is my chosen profession. So I'm very, very cognizant of my, my colleagues in the media, especially now with the 24-hour news cycle. They don't have the time, right? It used to be back in the day when I was starting out, you had a week to research a story. You had time to build the story, to talk to people. Now you have an idea, you've got to run with it. And many of them are just regurgitating what they've seen already. And so, we represent politicians, and we do this stuff, right? Our job is to get people talking about our clients. But what's happening out there is that we have created a situation where it's easier to just grab a story that you see already appeared, and instead of doing some investigation to see if that story was good, you just run with it and put your own spin on it. And everybody too is a reporter. I'm sorry.
Look,
Is that the media's fault, or is that our fault?
Well, that's our fault because we believe it.
Yeah.
Well, Letitia, I see it in what I do every day. I mean, you read these reports of what happens on these criminal cases, and I'll pick up a newspaper and I'll read the account of what occurred, and I'll know that it's not true. I'll know what the facts are. I'll know what really happened, and it's unbelievable to spin. The Advance actually is very good. I got to give a plug to the Staten Island Advance.
100%.
The reporters over there. I mean, the guys in the court, Frank Donnelly, for example, Dean Balsamini, when he was over there, those guys would be in a courtroom and they reported what they saw without opinion. They gave the prosecutor their shot. They give the defense attorney their shot. They're fair. But for the most part, you get like the Daily News. And they'll give an account of what happened in a courtroom, and you're like, what courtroom were they sitting?
Really? Where were they? Was I in the same place? Did I fall asleep? What happened?
It's unbelievable sometimes. It's comical.
Well, and it happens all the time. I mean, again, the pressure is there to report quickly, and we as the audience, want the information, right? Because we're watching on our phone and we're watching, on our video. We've got the news on all the time, and so we want more information. We want more information. But if one more person tries to tell me that you prove a point for either against President Trump or against Joe Biden by citing either the New York Times against Trump and Fox News against Joe Biden, I'm going to scream. You can't believe, because those two entities have a bias, and you have to take that with a grain of salt, ladies and gentlemen. So, Mary, before we go, anything else that you want to add to the audience?
No, this was great. I appreciate everybody who tuned in. That was very nice of them to take time out of their day during a pandemic. It's gorgeous outside, and for them to sit inside and do it. I'm actually doing it by my phone because, as Murphy's Law would be, my internet hasn't gone out yet during this whole pandemic. Today it decided it was just going to crap out the minute we started.
Right, just 2 minutes to go to airtime, and it was gone.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, that's what makes it fun. So, but just one more time before I let you go, please give your phone number and website for your law firm, because I'm going to have to refer back to this tomorrow when I get arrested.
Okay. The phone number, the emergency hotline is 888-369-1674, and it's the GallucciLawFirm.com. GALLUCCI. GallucciLawFirm.com.
All right, and for those of you who weren't here earlier, tomorrow is a big rally of construction workers and business owners and employees that are laid off who want to go back to work. It is going to take place at 12 noon. It will be at the Showplace Bowling Alley parking lot, and that is located at or about 141 East Service Road, which is at Victory Boulevard and the West Shore Expressway. I will be there. I will be talking about my vision for the construction industry in New York, and why the construction industry, I believe, is the industry that will get the ball rolling in business. But Steve Margarella is the organizer. He will be speaking, very similar to when we had him on the air on Monday. You will be hearing a lot of that. We will also have a business owner who has kept their business open during the pandemic to talk about how to do it safely. Remember, we are not talking about tossing guidelines aside. We're talking about opening responsibly and safely. If you can go to CVS and pick up your pills, why can't you go to, Sally Hair Care and get hair care products, to dye your hair at a cheaper price? Why are we putting so many people out of work and not being consistent? On Monday, our guest is going to be Ron Lauria. Ron Lauria is sheet metal workers. He is a great, he's worked in many political campaigns. He and I don't always share the same point of view, but I don't expect that we all should. I mean, I think that when you surround yourself with people that think like you, then you're going to be in a tunnel. I would much prefer to have people on that are going to talk about broad issues, and Ron is going to talk about his time with the union and what's going on in the country right now, and why it's important for Americans to understand the importance of unions. And for those of you who don't know, I am a union supporter, so I guess in that case we are the same. But he's going to talk about debunked the myths about unions and tell us why they're really important for America to get back to work. So Mario Gallucci Law Firm, and television personality. Thank you for being here, George, as always.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody, with one note when I go, remember that person next to you is your neighbor. Let's lose a little bit of hate. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. Be well.
You too.